Welcome, climate viewers. My name is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News. It's April 10th, 2018, and I just got an update from one of the other channels on YouTube. Shout out to Suspicious Observers for bringing this to my attention. Title of the article is China to install hundreds of thousands of fuel-burning chambers in Tibet to induce rainfall and address water scarcity in China. Man, so this kind of punched me in the gut. I don't know if you guys ever watched 7 Years in Tibet or know anything about the Tibetan people, but these guys have had a rough road already, and now the Chinese are coming for their water. So this may be a head scratcher for a lot of people. Because generally speaking, most people don't know what a fuel burning chamber for water scarcity is. So these are called cloud seeding generators. I'm going to get into them in great detail because I think this is important. And as a friend of Tibet myself, I hate to see this happening. So the story goes like this. Chinese Aerospace and Science Technology Corporation intends to install 1.6 million square kilometers or 620,000 square miles worth of cloud seeding generators across the Tibetan plateau. So for those who don't know what that looks like, let's bring this up right here. We're talking about this area. And as you can see, the Tibetan plateau is a mountain range. Pretty famous mountain range, and it feeds these rivers that run into Pakistan, such as the Ganges River, the Mekong River going down to Vietnam, the Yangtze, and the Yellow River feeding China. All of these are runoff, and water's pretty important. So in the weather modification world, the reason they target mountains is because of that. This is called snowpack augmentation in their world. This is another article. China needs more water, so it's building a rain-making network 3 times the size of Spain. Wow. That's a heck of a title. Here is an actual photo of one of the cloud seeding generators in China, so that we all know we're looking at the same thing. Now, this is basically a smokestack, and you've got a fire source at the bottom, and somewhere in that plume is the silver iodide, which is the chemical of choice for cloud seeding. I'll explain cloud seeding in detail as well, but basically you're burning the silver iodide salt into the air, and that's going to make it rain. That's the general idea. So there we have an actual photo of a Chinese cloud seeding generator. And this one, I just particularly like their little GIF. This is on the Hustle. I got a little animation of a scene from 7 Years in Tibet, like I saw with the flags on the mountaintop and all that beauty. And then here comes this smoke plume and clouds and rain. You get the idea. Now, cloud seeding generators, they're not actually a new thing, and they don't really have a lot of science behind them. Big surprise. They got a long history and very little science to prove that they actually work. So this is an article from ClimateViewer News. In 2014, I posted this. Cloud seeding gambling with your weather. Now, interestingly enough, they had something called the Wyoming Weather Modification Pilot Program. And in that, they wanted to prove that these cloud seeding generators actually could provide rain. That they're going to prove to the people who pay to modify the weather that, this is a real thing, dog. And this Wyoming Weather Modification Pilot Program cost $13 million to set up. And what was their findings? This is sad. Wait for it. Analysis showed that cloud seeding produced a 3% increase in precipitation, with a 28% probability that this result happened by chance. Okay. Let's blow that up for everybody at home. 3% increase in precipitation, 28% chance that it was just completely luck. Most scientists and statisticians wouldn't accept that level of uncertainty, says Breed, who was part of the NCAR team who analyzed the results. But for water managers in drought prone areas, it's a different story. If you say, I'm 70% confident that this will have an impact, well, a lot of them will think that's not too bad. Pretty amazing stuff. So I find that pretty interesting. That this was a fail, major fail. I did a video on it as well, but this was back in 2014. This was the last major one. Then they did another study. It was called Snowy. Same result, pretty crappy. So over here at weathermodificationhistory.com, you can learn all about cloud seeding generators and, what's the what with that. So give me 1 second. Let me bring this up here. So 1946, cloud seeding was invented. Vincent Schaefer, Irving Langmuir, and Bernard Vonnegut. Got some cool photos of them right here. And basically what you're seeing is Vincent Schaefer right here is leaning into what they called a cloud chamber, and he breathed in it, and it made, clouds, and water stuck to ice formed, and cloud seeding was invented. So these General Electric scientists, invented cloud seeding 1946. Most of the credit goes to Mr. Schaefer. And a littler known fact, which is much more important and pertinent to what we're talking about today, is cloud seeding from the ground. So who invented the ground-based cloud seeder? Well, it was a man named Irving P. Crick. Now, this is a name that most of you don't know. Good looking man right there. Check him out, looking smooth criminal. I'm actually friends with his son on Facebook. And he says, nobody talks about my daddy. I talk about his daddy every chance I get because I think he's fascinating. Very fascinating story there. But Irving P. Crick invented the ground-based cloud seeder. And here's a picture of his original cloud seeding generator. And you can see this is from 1949. Dr. Irving P. Crick operating the project, Salt River Project, 1949 in Arizona. So this stuff has a very long history, and the cloud seeding generators that he invented, they quickly spread across America. This is great. This is Irving Crick avoiding lawsuits over cloud seeding 1974. Lots of history over here. So before we leave Irving P. Crick, a lot of you guys have heard of this one, Eyes in Outer Space by Walt Disney. Interesting thing about this film is if you look right here at the beginning, it'll tell you technical consultant, Dr. Irving P. Crick. This is how I actually learned about the guy. Everybody was sharing this video, Eyes in Outer Space. It's a Walt Disney flick on steering hurricanes from 1959. And the part that stood out for me was, who was the guy that they went to when they made it? So I was watching the intro and I read the technical consultant, Dr. Irving P. Crick, and started reading about him from that. So just that one little minute detail led to all of this information, including 50-year history of him. Some great stuff from LA Times where you might actually watch some videos on him as well. Right here. Check it out, man. Irving P. Crick's snow machine. So he invented the thing back in 1949. And wouldn't you know, these cloud seeding generators, they quickly spread across America. So how does it work? What is a cloud seeding generator? Because normally you think of cloud seeding, you fly a plane in the air and you burn some chemicals, and that's how you make cloud seeds, or little aerosols or dust in the air that water sticks to, makes clouds, and hopefully enough water sticks to those dust particles or aerosols that they form rain and fall on the ground. That is how cloud seeding works. Dirt sticking to water, hope it falls out of the sky. So in this particular case, the dirt that we are using is silver iodide. The silver iodide is down here in the bottom left corner coming from the cloud seeding generator. This is called orographic cloud seeding. Orographic cloud seeding. So orographic cloud seeding is used to do snowpack augmentation. Snowpack is how much snow is on top of a mountain. In the spring, that snow will melt. It'll feed rivers. That's how the entire West Coast gets its water now, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, in the United States of America. So these cloud seeding generators in America look pretty much like this. So on the right-hand side, we have the old redneck version, similar to what Irving P. Crick invented, where it says manual cloud seeding generator. You've got a bottle of acetylene, propane, and butane mixed, acetone, things like that. And that is used as a fuel source. And above it is your silver iodide impregnating box where it is burnt. And then finally the chemicals come out the sky. So that heads up the mountain. Same idea over here on the left-hand side, except much more fancy. This is your solar-powered remote control fanciest version in America. This is Idaho State Power Company's version. And as you can see, it has similar idea, burning head on top, solar panels to do everything, satellite communications so they can turn it on and off from a remote distance, and solution tanks down here, nitrogen and propane at the bottom. So typically you got a propane burner and you got some silver iodide and you sprinkle the sky with plumes of these chemicals, and they hope that that sticks to water and makes rain on top of it. Yeah, I know. Gross, totally gross. To the people in chat, I totally agree. But the thing is, quickly from 1949, back on weathermodificationhistory.com, cloud seeding projects in the USA 1952 to 1965. And you can see here that this is a map of where things start to, spread across. And we've got double X's or CO2. So that's dry ice. So wherever you see a double X, they were using dry ice to do weather modification. A single X is AGL, that's silver iodide, and that's from planes, and you'll see where they were flying. And then this little curly Q is AGL, ground. So already we see Irving P. Crick's ground-based cloud seeding generators are being used all across the East Coast. Interesting. And then over here on the West Coast, we see the cloud seeding generators are already installed in these locations here, all across the West Coast. Interesting. So this is 1952 through 1965. Next, we're going to hop to Project Skywater. Now, Project Skywater, Atmospheric Water Resources Management from 1961 to 1988. Now, this was actually run by the U.S. government. And it basically was the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, Land Reclamation, and Water Reclamation. So they want to reclaim the water. They want to make sure they have control of the water on the West Coast. So the Bureau of Reclamation runs all this, and you can read all the reports on that here. Links to that too, right here, U.S. Bureau of Reclamation.gov, project histories, Project Skywater links. And you can see some nice little articles we've got right here, like from New Scientist on this, and a map. Now on this map, we can see a big difference from the last map I showed you. Now, in the last map, we just had a couple of projects. And as you can see, contractor, Navy, NOAA, New York University, Harvard, Illinois State Water Survey, University of Wisconsin, all of these different, projects all over America. And then the star one is Bureau of Reclamation, which is right here. And there's a whole gaggle of projects around there, of course. But this is cloud seeding has now spread to mostly the West Coast, where it remains to this day. And that's pretty much where the history ends. Now we're going to take you slam dang right up to today. And what does it look like? So this is modern day America cloud seeding. And what they're doing in China with these cloud seeding generators is still in use today in America. I've managed to map out, let's say, 7 different programs where these are located, like here with the Grand Mesa, Colorado cloud seeding generators. And you could see that for these, what I did was I actually went and found PDFs like this that said things like weather modification site target areas, Grand Mesa. And then it says over here on the left-hand side, generators. So generators are cloud seeding generators. So I went and I found the little stars, the little triangles right here. I overlaid that in Google Earth, and then that ended up right here. So as you can see, I can turn this on satellite view if you guys want to see the mountains and everything. But regardless, I use the black background just so we can make this easily viewable for our educational purposes today. But regardless, wherever you see these red flames, that is a cloud seeding generator. So this is just the Grand Mesa project. And over here we have the Central Colorado Rocky Mountain program, and you can see the map that I got that from here. Now, tracking these things down is pretty tough. Up here we have another project, and you can see right here, this icon is from the NOAA weather modification reports from the government, which I obtained. And you can see that this obviously has occurred in multiple years. This is all from 2004, but regardless, Wyoming Weather Modification Pilot Program. This is what we were just referring to. And as you can see, I've got 2 links here. For some reason, they're all jumbled up together. But anyway, let's see what it does. Biggest cloud seeding experiment yet only sparks more debate. Reiterating the point I was making about when we were talking about gambling with the weather, this is the Wyoming Weather Modification Pilot Program, and it was a big flop. So why is China covering all of Tibet, similar to how America is completely covered in these things, when it's unproven science, it's unreliable, and it's more than likely leading to all of the severe weather we have on the East Coast? This is a point I'm going to continue to drive home. What's going to happen in Tibet when they cover 620,000 square miles of mountain range with these cloud seeding generators is they're going to create a huge monumental size atmospheric plume. And when they do that, they're going to modify weather on a grand scale, something akin to geoengineering, something akin to an NMOD violation, in my personal opinion. But the transboundary issues of the weather modification that's going on just in America, what's about to happen in China, what's going on a large scale nobody really talks about. That's my focus, is on the macro, how it all relates, and is this safe technology? I think not. Up here on the screen, Humboldt River Basin cloud seeding generators. And then if you're in Lake Tahoe area, the Desert Research Institute is doing the Carson Walker Basin cloud seeding generators. And the list goes on down in San Diego, California. You've got Santa Barbara, California cloud seeding generators with their locations marked here. Here's what their flare trees look like. This what you're seeing on the screen here is all available at ClimateViewer.org. You can simply click on Add Maps, go to ClimateViewer Maps by Jim Lee, click on Geoengineering and Weather Modification right here, and scroll down till you see cloud seeding generators and experiments and U.S. government reports on weather modification. These maps have been available on ClimateViewer 3D since probably 2013, 2014 when I made them. I'm going to make new versions of these, but what I think you guys might find fascinating is if you look in the details over here on some of this stuff, especially the U.S. government reports, what you're going to realize is I also created a Google Fusion table from all of the weather modification reports in America. So what you can do is you can come here and you can zoom in real tight, and you can see that at Barkin International Airport, operator, Delta Airlines paid for weather modification for fog suppression at Salt Lake City International Airport. So Barkin International paid, or excuse me, Delta Airlines paid Barkin International to get rid of fog at Salt Lake City International Airport, January 2004. Wyoming Weather Modification Pilot Program, paid for by Eden Valley Irrigation and Drainage District. Who did it? Weather Modification Incorporated. You guys have probably seen their website. And what was their purpose? Precipitation enhancement. That was done January, April 2004. And you can see that these lists of programs go on and on. If you're in California and you pay your power bill to Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, they do weather modification as well here at Lake Almanor, Mokelumne, butchering it. All of these places. So I have an entire list of who's modifying the weather and who's paying for it and why they do it. And generally it goes like this. If you're talking about winter orographic cloud seeding, like they're talking about with cloud seeding generators, such as this, what you're going to see is that they generally operate from October through March of every year. So every winter, they start in October, and they usually turn them off around March. From March to next October, generally speaking, they're flying planes and doing cloud seeding up there. So that's the real big difference. This is how it all works. Now you've seen it with your own eyes. So that's the big picture of what's going on here. So when China says that they're installing thousands of burning chambers all over Tibet to get to the water, these cloud seeding generators are in operation in America. We have similar setup, have for a very long time. Nobody even knows about it. And by nobody, I mean not a soul. Yet, I personally believe from my observations regularly, and I can do that on ClimateViewer by going to precipitation radar and just flipping the radar up. And I can see the rain live. I can see the satellites. I can see this NEXRAD beam right there. And what I can do is come over here and actually go pull all those NEXRAD radars and everything up because I have them all right here. So I just click on NEXRADs, and what do you know? That's all the NEXRAD radars. And guess what? That beam is coming out of NEXRAD Doppler Radar Station MQT. So I watch this stuff with a fine-tooth comb on ClimateViewer 3D. I have a lot of fun keeping up with it. I just wish that other people would spread the word about things like cloud seeding generators. These things pretty much affect all of the weather coming from west to east coast. And when you start to figure in all of the factors, this is the one nobody's talking about. Cloud seeding generators, many of them. Here's the Idaho Power Company cloud seeding generators report here. And you can see that the Idaho Power Company has pretty much covered the entire state of Idaho in cloud seeding generators, as you can see here. Hundreds of them all across America operating all winter, and nobody even knew. And now there will be thousands in China. I hope that this has been educational for you guys. I hope that this message has resonated with you. I hope that we will raise awareness about cloud seeding generators invented by Irving P. Crick back in 1949, covering all of the United States, mainly across the West Coast. Interesting point I'd like to bring up right here at the tail end of this because I think it's pertinent. I just interviewed Dr. Jim Fleming. And if you watch this interview, Dr. Jim Fleming and Jim Lee on a weather warfare solution, he made the statement that, and it goes to something he had written called the butterfly effect. And it goes like this: does a butterfly flapping its wings down in Texas affect a tornado in, another state? And he said he asked that, Dr. Fleming said, he asked that to a prominent scientist, and the doctor came back with the answer, yes, but only if the butterfly flapping its wings were the size of the Rocky Mountains. I would argue that that is the size of the Rocky Mountains. And he called it the Mothra effect. So instead of a little butterfly, he called it the Mothra effect. So I wish that people would understand that the Mothra effect of cloud seeding on a grand scale all across the Rocky Mountains. And I'm going to find all of these cloud seeding generators. I still haven't found the ones up here around North Dakota, Montana. There are a bunch that I have not covered. And as you can see, there are many in California. I will have to find them all. But we will, with your help. I get by with a little help from my friends. That being said, I hope you guys will continue to support my work. I'm over here on Patreon now, and I'm going to continue to talk about this cloud seeding stuff. I've got a lot going on with the NMod solution right now. So please check me out on patreon.com/ClimateViewer. Continue to support me there. Come over here to ClimateViewer.com/NMod. This is /ENMOD, the Environmental Modification Accountability Act of 2018. I'm actually in contact with a state representative who is a lawyer, who has a team of lawyers who is looking at this thing. I've got support from several geoengineering scientists, including David Keith, and a whole bunch more. So things are going really quickly. I will keep you updated, and I appreciate all of you, having faith in me. I will continue to keep it real and tell you the full story, not the short version. You know how it is. So please, guys, check out climateviewer.org. Go to the weather modification section. Look at the cloud seeding generators. Come over to weathermodificationhistory.com and look at, the brand new 799 count them articles on weather modification you're not going to find anywhere else, like Tesla's tidal wave to make war impossible. Oh man, history is deep. It is fun. It is interesting, and those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Spread the word about how cloud seeding is it's hokey, and it shouldn't be spreading like wildfire like it is. And as long as people like us keep others informed, hopefully we can eventually put a stop to all of this reckless experimentation in our sky with no notification. So with that being said, attack ideas, not people. Please subscribe.